Hi, I'm Jana, and welcome back to the channel. If there's anything we all love, it's a good transformation. I think there's just something about a clear before and after that really scratches a part of your brain that makes you want to understand how someone went from one version of themselves to another. Sometimes it all makes sense. You look at the person and think, yeah, I can see how they got there. And other times, you're left scratching your head, wondering what the hell went down. Let's just say Clara Dao is definitely one of those cases. Clara Dao is a 27-year-old influencer who's gone viral over the past year for one of the most controversial transformations online, going from a flat chest and making hundreds of TikTok videos about being confident about it to later getting a boob job and becoming an OnlyFans model. Now, normally that wouldn't be like a huge deal on its own, as people can do whatever they want with their bodies and their lives, but from being one of the most recognizable faces of the body positivity movement, inspiring women to love themselves for the way they are, to then doing a complete 180, yeah. Let's just say you don't usually see that. And somehow even more transformed than Clara herself is her comment section. Girl, I've never seen a space go from support and positivity to absolute ruthlessness. What used to be a comment section full of "Clara, you're so inspirational" has turned into constant criticism. Now, for almost anything she posts, there's backlash. Clara could be doing a simple TikTok lip sync and someone will comment crazy that this was a girl preaching body positivity and embracing her body. So fake. She'll post a sponsored ad. Mine are natural and not plastic. Is anything about you real anymore? This woman can do so much as breathe. And the comments will be like, ignore the positive comments.
Bruh.
People seem hellbent on keeping Clara cancelled even a year after her boob job. But what's interesting is that these days, she also has a lot of people defending her. Her body, her choice. Stop hating. It's not that deep. She looks happier and prettier. Y'all are just jealous. The discourse around Clara is honestly so fascinating, and it leaves me with a few questions. Like, is the hate around Clara Dao actually justified, or is there something else going on here? And more importantly, how does someone go viral telling women they don't need external validation and then end up in one of the most external validation-driven industries on the internet? That's what our deep dive is today, so without further ado, let's dive in. Before she became the most hated body positivity influencer on TikTok, Clara Dao's life seemed perfect on paper. This is someone who grew up in an 11,000 square foot mansion with multiple wings, a temple, and servants' quarters.
Hi everyone, I'm in Vietnam right now. I'm actually standing in front of my parents' home in Vietnam. Let me walk you through what the house looked like from the outside. So this is the gate to the house. I absolutely love these gates. And then this is what the house looked like from the outside. Welcome to my Vietnam house.
Yeah. Not exactly your average childhood. Looking at that, you'd probably assume Clara had everything going for her. The kind of life where things were, for the most part, easy. But as we'll see throughout her story, what you see on the outside rarely reflects what's really happening underneath. You see, Clara's biological mother passed away when she was still a very young child. So even while the material side of Clara's childhood looked luxurious, the emotional side was complicated. As you can imagine, that kind of loss at such a young age shapes you in ways you don't fully understand yet, and Clara was no exception. Now, apparently in ultra-wealthy families, when your child goes through something incredibly traumatic like Clara did, the solution is pretty simple. You ship them off to boarding school abroad at the first chance that you get. And so at the age of 15, Clara left Vietnam to attend an international boarding school in Canada. Moving to a new country on your own is already a huge adjustment, especially as a teenager trying to figure yourself out. There's so much to deal with, like settling in, adapting to the culture, and making new friends. But for Clara, it seemed like her focus shifted somewhere else. As she tried to adjust to her new environment, Clara became increasingly self-conscious about her appearance. And while that's something a lot of teenagers go through, for Clara, it seemed to feel more intense, as though she was specifically worried that her appearance was going to hold her back from being liked.
Cảm thấy rất là xấu. Răng mình rất xấu như xưa. Không biết sao bên răng bên này cũng xấu lắm nhé. Là rất là cả ớn đi răng này. Đến như kiểu ấy của tạo hóa, gọi là sai lầm của tạo hóa chăng? Ở đấy nhìn thấy chưa? Đây là bề mặt da thực sự của mình.
I was indeed very insecure. I hated how I looked. I constantly compared myself to other girls, and I was just not like happy with myself at all. I was self-conscious and I just want to look good, to, you know, maybe have a boyfriend, to look good in front of my crush, whatever. I want to have a boyfriend for the first time, maybe, right? I want to, you know, be popular in high school, whatever. So my boobs haven't grown in size since I was 10. And I remember that's also exactly the time when I first felt insecure about my breast. When I saw all my girlfriends starting to have boobs, I started to wonder what was wrong with my body. Why didn't my boobs grow at all? I was just too insecure about how flat my chest looked. In addition, I also thought that guys only like girls with bigger boobs. I thought that having boobs make you look like a woman, and if I didn't have any, then I would just look like a boy. So I remember there's so many times that I Google, do guys like girls with small boobs? Do guys find small breasts attractive? I was just so self-conscious about what people, especially guys, would think about me and my boob size. I don't know why I start tearing up, but you know, I feel like for so long we look at, you know, social media influencers, celebrities, and we look at their perfect images, or even just look at their normal images, and or look at other people in our life that we feel like they're so pretty and we're not as pretty as them, and they just so superior in some way, and that we can never match up, and somehow life is just so unfair. Somehow they just have the perfect bone structure, the perfect facial features, and we don't have those features, and we feel like we're not pretty enough, and that we feel like we don't look good enough, and that we are not enough in some way.
Now, what's interesting is that you would think, based on the way Clara talks about herself, that she must have been bullied for her looks, or that her appearance massively affected how people treated her. But in reality, Clara was actually thriving, despite how she felt. Growing up wealthy in Vietnam, she had a large social circle and seemed to be very well liked and admired. And after moving to Canada, she seemed to adjust very quickly. She made friends easily, was pretty much liked by everyone, and did extremely well academically, eventually graduating as valedictorian in high school. Can't believe you felt that insecure. I knew about you when you were in secondary school. I did not go to your school, so I heard about you from my friends. All they said was how cool you were, fashionable, charismatic, etc., and how great your academic performance was. This was a comment left by an acquaintance on her 2020 video titled, "I hated myself, so I changed how I look to become confident." And I think this comment is pretty telling, because even though Clara clearly felt very critical of herself, from the outside, she seemed to have everything going for her. So it sort of raises a question how someone like Clara could seemingly be doing so well on the outside and still feel like they're not enough. And I think a part of that answer comes down to the environment she found herself in, and the very different beauty standards she grew up around.
I was never a confident kid when I grew up. I think a lot of it has to do with how I was raised in a Southeast Asian family. As a kid, I wasn't the most sociable or extroverted. I think a big pattern throughout my childhood and my adult life is I put my self-worth in other people's hand. Like what they think about my appearance, what they think about my personality, what they think of me as a person. And that leads to a lot of time I changed myself to conform to those standards that people put on me.
In Vietnam, Clara grew up influenced by Asian beauty standards, where beauty tends to be a lot more defined, and there's usually a clearer idea of what's considered attractive. Things like fair skin, a slimmer frame, and softer features are emphasized. And on top of that, beauty is also about presentation. How put together you look and looking attractive is kind of a social expectation. It's a large part of why cosmetic procedures are more openly accepted and normalized at a young age in many parts of Asia. Because of how much importance is placed on appearances, people in Asian cultures are a lot more comfortable openly commenting on your looks. Whether it's family, relatives, or even just people around you, it's pretty normal to hear things about your weight, skin, how you look that day, all of it, whether you ask for it or not. Often framed as them just, you know, looking out for you. As you can imagine, that kind of open criticism can easily be internalized and very much got to Clara. In multiple of her early videos, she talks about how those comments stuck with her and ended up negatively shaping how she saw herself for a long time.
So my whole life, from the day I know how to speak till this day when I'm a grown-ass 21-year-old woman, people around me, my friends, my family, my relatives, strangers, acquaintances, the first thing they say when they look at me is, How come are you so skinny? You need to gain weight. You need to gain 10 pounds. You need to gain 20 pounds. You need to gain 30 pounds. You need to gain 40 pounds. You need to gain 50 pounds. Like, what? No. Stop it. Like, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of people just assume that there's something wrong with me. Assume that being skinny is wrong. Like, no, it's not. I'm healthy and I don't need to hear your opinions on how I look. Thank you.
Now, after moving to Canada, Clara suddenly became exposed to Western North American beauty standards. And that's a pretty major shift already, not just in what's considered beautiful in the two cultures, but in how seriously those standards are treated. In the West, there tends to be more room for different types of beauty, and it's often framed more as self-expression, like how you choose to present yourself, rather than something you strictly have to meet. At least in theory, because I'm sure plenty of people watching would disagree with that. But in general, with movements like body positivity, which Clara later becomes a part of, we've seen more of a push to expand what's considered beautiful, even if that progress isn't always perfect. In my opinion, to go from the strictness and open criticism of Asian beauty standards to then finding herself in the more broadly defined self-expressive Western environment, Clara was put in a position where she constantly compared and tried to live up to different standards at once. She didn't really feel like she fit into either, which seemed to make her even more insecure over time, even though from the outside, she didn't really seem out of place. But it wasn't just the beauty standards affecting how she felt. According to Clara, moving to Canada as a teenager also came with a strong sense of loneliness from being far away from home.
I've always been alone. I've been in Canada for 4 years, and it's always just me. All my families and my best friends are in Vietnam. And when it's my birthday or New Year's Eve or Christmas, it's just me. And it's been like that for a while. There are times on Christmas and New Year's that I just spend by myself. I just spend Christmas and New Year's by myself. It just makes me feel like I'm so lonely. I'm so alone.
I have to say, watching this, I can't help but relate a bit. As someone who's also moved away from family, that feeling of doing everything alone and wishing you had more of a support system really sticks with you. When you combine that with already not feeling confident about how she looked, it's easy to see how Clara's insecurities only grew over time. Now, many people, especially in today's social media age, fall into the trap of thinking that if they were just famous enough, then they would stop feeling lonely. That the attention and admiration of hundreds, thousands, and even millions of people would finally make the loneliness go away. And the same idea usually gets applied to confidence too. People assume that the more famous you are, the more confident you must be. As if, validation somehow fixes everything. And it's pretty clear to me that Clara might have thought this too, because as a way of coping with her insecurity and growing loneliness, she started uploading videos on YouTube. In my opinion, it was almost like she was hoping that becoming a social media star would make her feel more seen and give her the kind of validation she felt she was missing offline. Now, Clara didn't actually start on social media with body positivity content. In fact, her early videos were actually very different from what she's known for today. At first, Clara focused more on self-improvement style videos that were very much on trend at the time. Morning routines, motivational content, positive mindset advice, and that sort of thing. Unfortunately for her at the time though, none of these videos went viral or gained much attention. And to be fair, they weren't really for a specific audience, and they felt more like, a personal diary. Like Clara was just sharing whatever was on her mind at the time.
My motto for this year is do what you love. You get me? Do what you love. It's like it instantly feels so good just to say that.
But everything changed when she opened up about something far more personal. The insecurities she had about her flat chest. And I'm sorry, but if you told me I'd ever be saying that sentence out loud, I would have laughed my tits off. Too soon? To all the girls out there who have small breasts, are flat-chested, and sometimes feel insecure about it. I know how it feels like. Growing up, I've always been self-conscious about how small my boobs are and wonder if anyone would ever find it attractive. Out of all my girlfriends, I'm always the one with the flattest chest, and hearing jokes about it from friends and family members was something so normal. I often wore push-up bras and baggy clothes as a way to cover the insecurity, and even contemplated breast augmentation at some point last year. Only when I found out that breast augmentations are not permanent, and you're likely to have to redo it every 5 to 10 years, I started to really accept and try to love my breast size for what it is. Who's to say that small breasts are not beautiful? Who dictates that small breasts cannot be sexy and feminine? The only person that can decide that is you. So next time you feel insecure about a particular feature or your appearance, know that you have it for a reason. It makes you, you. It makes you special. Nobody is perfect, and we don't need perfection, as imperfections are beautiful. This post did not exactly age very well, did it? This Instagram post was made in February 2019. And as I said, this post was different because it literally changed everything for Clara. You see, for the first time ever, Clara experienced noticeable attention online, getting far more likes, reach, and engagement than ever before, especially alongside the YouTube video that would go on to become one of her most viral uploads.
Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Clara, and today let's talk about boobs. I'm flat-chested, and as you can see, if you picture my chest like a LCD TV screen or an ironing board, that's basically how my chest looks like. But you know what? I love it.
Now, I think one of the most important things to understand about this moment is that it actually wasn't even intentional. In fact, in one of her videos, Clara reveals that her viral flat-chested post happened completely by accident.
So on Valentine's Day of 2019, I was single at the time, and on that day I just felt like I want to look pretty, I want to feel pretty. So I got up and I got ready and I did my hair and I did my makeup and I just stood in front of my window and took like a bunch of selfies. And I started posting those selfies on my Instagram. So that post completely blew up and I got like maybe a few hundred new followers just from that post. But I really never thought that I'm gonna make videos specifically for small boobs.
While the moment itself wasn't really planned, it was clear that Clara's flat-chested posts I really just can't believe that I'd be saying that in my entire YouTube career, but I guess here we are. Sorry, girl, let me start over. It was clear that Clara's flat-chested post really resonated with people. Like, really resonated with people in a completely organic way. I've struggled with my AA chest since the 6th grade, and I felt so alone and isolated because everyone around me seems to have more chest than me, and I've just felt so unattractive and undesirable. When I found this video on your channel, it honestly gave me so much hope. Thank you so much. You're the first girl I've seen with the same breast size as me. I thought I was the only one. Thank you so much for posting. Girl, you're speaking my language. I'm 21 now, still a 32A, and finally started to love myself. I needed this video about 5 years ago, and I'm really glad that it's out there for girls who are in high school now. As you can see, these comments weren't just compliments. They were genuine emotional responses, which isn't something that you see that often online. Girls were saying they'd never really seen their insecurity talked about so openly before, or that they'd always assumed they were the only ones feeling that way until they came across Clara's video. In fact, it seemed like Clara's video touched on something that other body positivity influencers hadn't really captured yet, which seems to me like a good time to talk about the body positivity movement and the wider online discourse around it. By the late 2010s to early TikTok era, which was around the time Clara's flat-chested body positivity brand was starting to gain traction, self-love messaging was incredibly popular. Empowerment language was also huge, and we saw a lot of creators posting self-improvement and confidence-focused content for the first time. But at the same time, we also saw that not every insecurity was treated or talked about the same. Some insecurities were seen as more socially acceptable, while others were treated as I guess not really that big of a deal. For example, being a skinny woman wasn't really seen as something you should be insecure about because, you know, by all means, being skinny has been a common and highly desired beauty standard since pretty much forever. And Clara's experience kind of reflected that as well. Just like the insecurities she had about her looks growing up, being skinny and having a flat chest didn't really seem to get in the way of what Clara cared about the most, like having relationships or being seen as attractive. A good example example of this is in a video where she called her ex-boyfriend and asked him what he thought about her flat chest. He didn't really have anything negative to say at all.
How's it going?
I'm good, how are you? I just want to ask you, what do you think of my flat chest? I never asked you this question when we were dating, so I'm interested.
I think you might have asked me once or twice.
Did I?
I like it. Yeah, you did. I like your flat chest. Before we started dating, I didn't really notice. It was never a turn off or anything like that. Just not something that even occurred to me, really. I just thought you were attractive and that's it.
Okay, so this is just a reminder that if you're really insecure about something, maybe don't call your ex-boyfriend and ask him what he thinks about it. It's just not a good idea. Girls, please protect your mental health and well-being. I beg of you. Now, as we know, there's a clear difference between how things look on the outside and how someone feels on the inside, right? Even if something is considered a beauty standard, that doesn't automatically mean someone feels confident in it. And that's okay and completely valid. With that being said, I think Clara, as a skinny, conventionally attractive woman whose main insecurity was her flat chest, ended up representing a space for a woman who felt sort of left out of the movement. For many girls, Clara was seen as someone who finally spoke about a very specific insecurity that wasn't really represented or taken seriously. As a result of this response, Clara made a lot of videos about being positive about her flat chest. And I do mean a lot of videos. So many that over time, Clara wasn't just Clara anymore. She became the flat-chested body positivity girl who inspired millions of women to feel better about their bodies. But I think when your biggest source of success becomes tied to the thing that hurts you the most, things can get complicated very, very quickly. Because as we continue to learn, being seen and validated for an insecurity doesn't automatically make that insecurity disappear. Most of the time, it actually just gives it a bigger stage. And in my opinion, that was what started to happen to Clara as her platform grew. Now, just to be clear, I don't doubt that Clara eventually developed a genuine level of confidence in herself. I mean, you don't make hundreds upon hundreds of videos saying you're confident about your flat chest unless some real confidence is there. But I think even a small unresolved insecurity can grow very quickly when the internet constantly keeps shining a light on it. In fact, when Clara first blew up online with her first flat-chested body positivity video, it seemed like it actually introduced a whole new set of insecurities.
In late November, my video went viral. It happened so fast. I was able to gain like 5,000 or 10,000 subscribers in a day. And I gained hundreds and hundreds of views a day. And it completely blew my mind. I was on such a high. It's amazing. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Having millions and hundreds of people watching my videos, it feels amazing. It feels fucking amazing. I'm not gonna lie. But then that period lasted for a week. When I started to see the growth to slow down, I was in panic mode. I was kind of depressed. I was feeling like, what am I doing wrong? You know, what's going on? Why is the growth slowing down? Am I doing something wrong? And I started to be really obsessed with perfection. Just for some reason, just numbers just seemed so important to me. And you know, my videos doesn't perform as well as that video. I felt like I'm a failure. I felt like I fell behind. And it's a terrible feeling. I had a big problem with comparing myself to other content creators. Big problems. I would spend like hours. I'm telling you, I'm being so real with you here. I would spend like hours to compare my stats with someone else's stats. And it's weird that like maybe me and that person are not even in the same niche, are not even, you know, making the same type of videos, have totally different audience, but I still compare. I compare myself with the biggest creator, with even the smallest creators. I compare myself with everyone because I never felt like I'm enough. I never felt like I had enough. I never felt like I was successful enough, like I was loved enough.
Now, it seems very clear to me that even around her first viral flat chest body positivity videos, Clara was actually becoming more dissatisfied with herself than ever, and in a much deeper way. Just as she spoke about, once success gets tied to a very specific version of yourself, there's always this pressure to maintain it. And in Clara's case, it actually seemed to have translated into becoming more self-conscious of how she looked on camera, which in turn led her to taking more breaks from social media, even at the peak of her career.
I felt so insecure looking at myself on camera. I felt like I look weird on camera. I talk weird on camera. And I would get ready and turn on my camera, talk for 1 or 2 minutes and look at the footage and just be disappointed. Or sometimes just feel not disgusted, but feel like, why do I look so bad on camera? You know, and I know for a fact that it's probably just all in my head. But I couldn't change the fact that it's how I feel. I didn't feel good about myself. I didn't feel good about looking at myself on camera, and I just felt like I'm not good enough to be on YouTube.
At this point, it's clear that Clara was sort of caught in a real bind. On one hand, social media was finally working for her. She was getting major attention, building the online career she'd always wanted, and creating content that genuinely made a lot of women feel seen and better about themselves. But on the other hand, the very thing bringing her success also seemed to be making her feel even worse about herself. And I really want to highlight the irony in that. Clara was publicly known as a confident, flat-chested girl helping others embrace their bodies while privately struggling with the very insecurity she built her platform around. Like, let that sink in for a second. And to be clear, this is not a dig at Clara. If anything, it's just a reminder that social media is incredibly curated. What we see online is always a performance in some way, and we never really know what people are going through, even when their lives look perfect online.
When they say they have emotional baggage, just remember that's not a bad thing. Because you need baggage if you want to go to the airport.
This is Javi Lorenzana, Clara's major boyfriend. According to the couple themselves, Javi and Clara met at a club on Javi's birthday in late 2023. And allegedly, both of them were in relationships at the time, and Javi's ex later publicly claimed that he essentially cheated on her with Clara. And the wise words of the wizard Liz, cheaters should date cheaters, period. Leave other people out of y'all's mess. Please watch my Wizard Liz deep dive if you enjoyed this one. Thank you. Now, I think it's important to note that before Javi, Clara was rarely ever single and had multiple boyfriends throughout the years. And from what Clara has shared, being single seemed to weigh on her more than it might for some people.
When a relationship ends, I feel like I lose 80% of my social life because my partner was so important to me in so many ways. So when I lose a relationship, I feel like, oh my god, like I'm losing this part of my life. I'm just gonna be alone.
Because of the loneliness she struggled with while living in Canada, it seems to me that relationships were not just about romance and companionship, but also another major source of validation for Clara. Especially when you remember that younger Clara once worried her looks would be an issue when it came to attracting a partner. And to be fair, I think that's relatively normal. A lot of people feel affirmed through relationships, especially, you know, after years of self-doubt and insecurity. But when that's layered on top of needing constant social media validation as well, that's probably not the healthiest dynamic for those involved. Interestingly, Clara kept her previous boyfriends fairly private and off camera while she was dating them, but Javi, it seems, was different because she featured him heavily across her content and even made a couples channel with him. And that channel actually did very well, as they were able to eventually reach around 850k subs on their shared YouTube channel.
Bare minimum, low effort men are the worst. I mean, we provide all the emotional labor. We provide the beauty. Like, what do you bring to the table?
What do you bring?
Oh, I was on a date with this guy.
Yeah?
I got so pretty. I wore this red dress. Stunning.
Queen?
Stunning. Girl,
Got
you know
it.
what he wore?
What did you wear?
He wore a t-shirt and sweatshorts.
I don't know about you, but I always find couples content like so cringe. It just feels so fake. And with that, I guess I'm never beating the jealous hater allegations, am I? All jokes aside, Javi himself is not as important as the fact that many people noticed Clara made the most changes to her appearances while she was with him. And those changes were very, very noticeable. During their relationship, Clara dyed her hair from black to an orangey red, finally got lip fillers, and overall started looking quite different compared to her pre-Javi era. I think this led to a lot of online speculation that she may have felt pressured by Javi to change her appearance, or at the very least, the timing of those changes raised a lot of questions about, whether he had any influence at all over the changes she was making to her looks. But to me, the idea that Javi directly pressured Clara into changing her appearance doesn't really hold up in my opinion. Because Clara had already been making changes to her appearance long before Javi entered the picture.
I've done quite a few things to my appearance to help me become more confident, to help me love myself and my appearance more. I will go over the 5 main things that I did to change my appearance. Those are 1. Getting braces, 2. Going through a double jaw surgery, 3. Getting my eyebrows microbladed, 4. Getting rid of my acne, and 5. Stop doing stupid things to my hair.
Which are all changes she was making well before her relationship with Javi. Clara also explains in another video that her previous boyfriend was quite toxic and that her relationship with Javi felt much healthier in comparison. She says the changes she was making were an expression of how happy she felt with Javi. If anything, it seems more like when Clara met Javi, she was already in a much better relationship situation, which made her feel more secure in her choices during that time.
I honestly feel like a brand new person. I have so much more zest and energy for life, and I'm just so excited for what comes next. I'm just so excited to explore more, to learn more, and to just exist, be alive more.
So in some ways, I think he may have even contributed positively to her confidence when it came to making appearance-related changes. However, with Clara being Clara, and because the relationship was so public, it likely just made the insecurities she already had even more intense. Adding an attractive, very public boyfriend, the pressure to look hotter as a couple's brand, and the need to feel desirable within the relationship itself into the mix, yeah, let's just say things were about to get messy. And you can actually start to notice that in her content.
Blocked.
Girl, please be for real right now. I don't think anyone was saying that, but you know what? Okay. During the Javi era, Clara was still known as the flat-chested, confident body positivity girl. But in my opinion, the noticeable changes she had already started making to her appearance began to clash with the identity she had built around that brand. At the same time, the body positivity movement was also starting to lose momentum online. I think, it had just been heavily overplayed and become very corporate. People were starting to get more cynical of the movement, and Clara in particular started to come under more scrutiny, especially given how closely her content was tied to that body positivity messaging. You've said this exact thing like 20 different ways already. Body positivity or just the same talking point in every video. Not everything has to be about your flat chest, girl. We get it. Damn. I think we can all agree that these comments are pretty brutal, but even if they're exaggerated or unfair, they do reflect a broader shift in how audiences were beginning to engage with Clara's content. Because at this point in the story, and with the changes she was making, Clara was slowly moving in a direction her audience could no longer really relate to. And I think the final nail in the coffin was what I like to call Cancelgate. In early 2025, a wave of influencers began getting canceled, or more accurately, called out as audience sentiment shifted. On top of growing cynicism towards movements like body positivity, people were also becoming very critical of influencers as a whole and what they were choosing to promote. Basically, a lot of audience started seeing influencers as fake, out of touch, performative, and overly focused on selling something at all times, and they did not like it. Unfortunately for Clara, she became one of the first major influencers to be swept up in that wave during Cancelgate. On January 30th, 2025, a social commentary creator named Kelly Skolos released a video titled Clara Dao, the most disgusting body positivity hypocrite on TikTok. And I've got to say, that title is already a lot in itself. Like, goddamn. The video itself doesn't hold back either. In the video, Kelly pretty much wastes no time in breaking down Clara's content and calling out what she sees as, let's just say, inconsistencies in her body positivity messaging.
Clara Dao claims to be all about body positivity, self-love, and feminism. That sounds great, right? Just to find out that our own version of body positivity comes with a few, let's just say, terms and conditions. She claims that it's okay to be skinny and then she is naturally skinny, but then releases a video about how she healthily stays skinny. She talks about how harmful it is for you to emphasize on a particular body part, but then she made her whole entire social media pages about her certain body type. Tell me why she made the video about the surprising habits that keeps her skinny. First thing that she started off with was the fact that she can stay without eating till 7 p.m.
I often don't remember to eat unless I really feel it in my stomach. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm hungry. And then I realized that, oh, it's like 7 p.m. and I haven't eaten anything all day. That hunger, I just don't experience it.
You know 7 p.m. is in the evening, right? She claims that it is healthy. She literally said it by herself that this is healthy. It's not healthy. You not eating from morning till night is not healthy. This is extremely bad and harmful. The fact that people have really bad, should I say, relationships with food, and Clara being body positive, telling people to love themselves regardless, spreading a message like this is a very wrong message to pass on to your young audience. Let's talk about how Clara said that when she gets into a relationship, she will make it private. She won't really share it with the world.
Here we go. Am I single? Am I seeing anyone? My relationship status? My answer to that question is, it's a secret.
But 3 months into their relationship, she started showing her boyfriend on her social media. I believe that she started showing her boyfriend because she started to lose relevance. I do believe that this particular relationship was just done for clout. 2 months ago, she made a video supporting the Iranian people who were protesting for women's rights because a lady was brutally unalived because she didn't wear her hijab properly. And do you know what Clara did? Clara was literally cutting off her split ends to support. I am being actually serious about this. This is not a joke in any way. It sounds like a joke, but Clara took her hair and cut off the split ends in support of this particular protest. This is a clear example of virtue signaling. Clara always likes to lean into that narrative that she looks like a teenager. Because of that, like, people are starting to look at her as a child, and disturbing people are patronizing her Patreon to look at stuff like this. If you check her Patreon, she basically acts like a teenager. So all those disgusting people will probably come to her Patreon thinking that that's what they're gonna get. The amount of things that I saw, the amount of people that are talking about that particular body part on Clara. I think I'm just gonna stop here because I'm already feeling some type of way about this. So I cannot go any further. For me, I feel like Clara is a hypocrite. She has a really young audience, but she chooses to promote this particular thing to them. Can I just add the fact that she also acts like a teenager when she's not? She's leaning into that narrative that a 26-year-old woman looks like a child, and she keeps capitalizing on it. which is just troubling. Like, it just makes my mind think, what is actually going on in this world? I think because she's no longer getting as much views as she used to get, people are already moving on from her because, again, she makes really troubling videos. I don't think any young girl wants to see stuff about being positive and then go to the next video and it's completely opposite. So, that is what I have on Clara.
Wow. Girl, there is a lot to unpack here. First off, I do think a few of Kelly's points come across as a bit speculative and emotionally driven rather than, fully grounded in strong evidence. And I guess someone could say that about me, but that sounds like a future me problem. In any case, I don't think it's fair to claim that Clara simply lost relevance and then pivoted into couples content just to farm clout through javi. I mean, God forbid Clara tries something different and fun with her boyfriend after people had already spent years complaining that, all she talked about was her flat chest. Just saying. And as for the whole fetishization teenager narrative, I mean, I don't know, guys. What do you think? Personally, I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I don't think it's one of the stronger points being made in the video. One of the stronger and more grounded points Kelly raises, though, is the concern around Clara's video titled "The Surprising Habits That Help Me Stay Skinny." I mean, girl, I think this video should have stayed in drafts. Even if Clara didn't mean any harm by it, I do think it's a fair video to question given how large her platform is and the fact that a lot of her audience is younger and more impressionable. The video can be very easily interpreted as promoting unhealthy habits, or at the very least, normalizing a questionable relationship with food, which obviously isn't a great message to be putting out there and monetizing on. And beyond that, the video overall does come across as quite contradictory to the body positivity messaging she built her platform on in the first place. Body positivity is generally about moving away from obsessing over size, weight, and rigid beauty standards. So when you then make content centered around how to stay skinny, it can feel like you're reinforcing the same appearance-focused mindset that message is supposed to challenge. Kelly Skolas's video became the first major call-out video on Clara. Today, it sits at over 2 million views. 2 million views. The reason that matters is because it shows Kelly's criticism essentially became a cultural moment on the internet. It effectively pushed Clara into mainstream attention, but in a very negative way. You see, that video helped set the tone for how Clara was being discussed at the time, and arguably encouraged other creators to make further pylons against her. And with that, Clara was officially cancelled. To say that our flat-chested body positivity girl was now unpopular and wildly disliked would be a really big understatement. At that point, it almost felt like she was universally hated online. After Cancelgate, I think it was genuinely a tough period for Clara. For someone whose career had been so heavily built on public approval, validation, and having a positive relationship with her audience, sudden widespread backlash was likely a lot to process. In fact, after Kelly Skolas's video and the wave of Clara Dao call-out videos that followed, Clara went quiet and disappeared from social media for a while. And who can really blame her, right? When the internet turns on you that hard, logging off is probably the healthiest thing to do. And so Clara went quiet. She stopped posting and took a break from the internet altogether. But I think in true influencer fashion, she didn't stay quiet for long. Soon enough, Clara made her return to the internet with something new. Actually, 2 things that were very new. A fresh online chapter and a new set of boobs. Or is that technically 3 things? A rebrand, Bigger Boob 1 and Bigger Boob 2? Anyways, on April 1st, literal April Fool's Day, Clara announced on TikTok that she had gotten a boob job. I think a lot of people were confused at first, mainly because of the timing and how unclear it all was. I mean, posting "I got a boob job" on April 1st after being quiet for months and ending it with "Happy April Fools" is not exactly the most straightforward announcement. Also, to go from the flat-chested body positivity girl to the bigger boobed, I guess, body negativity girl, it's just wild. Let's just say you don't see that every day. A few weeks after the boob job announcement, Clara released a video titled "The Reason I Changed," where she went point by point through many of the issues raised against her during Cancelgate, while also confirming that she had, in fact, gotten a boob job.
Let's do this. I've been wanting to make this video for like the longest time now. Just to give you an update on like
everything. I feel like a lot have changed over the past month or since February. I know there's a lot of things going on. First, let's talk about the controversy that a lot of other YouTubers or drama channels has made content about. It's all come from this video, which I posted a while ago talking about my habits, the habits that make me skinny. I can be honest with you, is that before I made that video, I already knew that people would criticize me for it. They will not like it. I know that that video has offended a lot of people. I understand that, especially if you're struggling with eating, with your relationship with food. It's not a good video to watch, you know? And with the fact that I am in the body positivity niche, or I like to say that I'm used to, for a long time, I feel like body positivity is not my passion anymore. If you've been doing the same thing for 6 years, you know, I've made over 950 videos about the same topic, essentially. It's just that over time, as I do a lot of the same content day after day, weeks after weeks, year after years, I get bored. You know those scientists that said that once you turn 25, it's kind of like your brain have essentially kind of finished growing, like your prefrontal cortex. I feel like it applies to me because when I turn 25, what I care about is no longer body positivity anymore. When I posted that controversial video about the skinny habit, that's, I feel like, a way of my subconscious mind try to like poke me out of the body positivity, because my mind knows full well that I will be cancelled releasing that video full well. I know that like people will like throw the table at me, okay? But I still did it because my subconscious mind, everything you do is driven by your subconscious mind and like what you truly want inside. And at the time, I haven't come to terms with the fact that I want to change my niche, okay? But I'm just like, I don't know why. I just want to like stir things up. I don't know, like I know this video is probably gonna end my career, but you know what? Like secretly, like I don't want to do body positivity anymore. So that's why I created that video. That's why I released that video. But I do understand if it like rub people the wrong way. I completely understand that. And like, I'm sorry if you take it the wrong way. And I think another big thing is the fact that I had a boob job. Yes, I did have a boob job. I want to have fun. I want to change my identity. I feel like I'm the type of person who loves transformation and who loves change, physical change. That's why I'm like going through multiple different hair color. You may think that, oh, having a boob job, like it's not like changing your hair color. Like you're basically changing your whole body, like permanently. And I get that. I totally get that. Like we have like, everyone has different, you know, level of acceptance and level of like comfortability with body changes. And I think my comfortability is like pretty high. For me, life is like, I don't want to take life seriously or too seriously. I try to do other things. I try to do other type of content. But like, as soon as I do another flat chest video, it's the best video ever. It's the best, most viral video. So I feel this like pull, right? To be like, okay, I try to make other types of content, but it seems like people still want my flat chest content the most. I'm still that flat chested girl. People still love it. Like, you know, like that's stuck. I was stuck in the position of like, everything in my life is so good, okay? I could literally keep making the same type of content and make really good amount of money. Have everything I ever want. But real growth, I don't see it, you know? Since I had my boob job, I felt like, oh, okay. Now I can't rely on my flat chest anymore. I also just want to try having boobs for fun, to see what it's like to have boobs, to see what it's like. I just want a transition. I just want to step into a new era, step into a new version of me because I want to have fun. And it's just simple as that.
Right. I'm not sure about you, but I feel like this is giving peak influencer apology behavior. I feel girl boss gaslit by Clara right now, not gonna lie. And judging by the comments of this video, I think a lot of people felt the same. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To say that one of the main reasons for the cosmetic surgery was that as a 25-year-old woman with a fully developed prefrontal cortex, she simply just no longer cared about body positivity anymore is Wild explanation, to say the least. But in the spirit of trying to not twist her words, I think I can understand what she was trying to say. After spending 6 years of making body positivity content and nearly 1,000 videos around the same subject, Clara says she felt boxed into the flat-chested body positivity girl persona and creatively drained by repeating the same themes over and over. And honestly, I think most people can understand that. If anything, it's kind of impressive she sustained that niche for as long as she did, because making hundreds of videos on such a specific topic without repeating yourself constantly is not easy. Where I think the argument starts to fall apart, though, is the idea that drastic personal change was the only path forward. Realistically, nothing was stopping Clara from evolving her content naturally, and she certainly didn't need to jump into content that basically meant betraying the audience that helped build her platform. Let's not forget, Clara had already started experimenting with other types of content, whether it was couples content with javi or fashion or makeup videos, many of which still performed perfectly well, even if they didn't hit the same numbers as her signature videos. So in my opinion, Clara wasn't as cornered into the flat-chested body positivity girl persona as she presented herself to be. One of the more eyebrow-raising parts of Clara's response video was how she explained the surprising habits that make me skinny video. Clara says she understands why people were upset, admits she knew the video would likely receive backlash, and suggests it may have come from her quote-unquote subconscious desire to break away from the body positivity niche.
When I posted that controversial video about the skinny habit, that's, I feel like, a way of my subconscious mind try to like poke me out of the body positivity, because my mind know full well that I will be cancelled releasing that video full well.
To put it nicely, let's just say I'm not fully sold on that explanation. And the reason why I'm not fully sold on Clara's explanation is that at the start of the video, Clara says she made the video after noticing similar naturally skinny habits content showing up on our YouTube feed.
I make this video because I've been seeing a lot of videos on my YouTube feed about habits that naturally skinny people have.
In my opinion, sounds more like recognizing a trending topic that could perform well on the algorithm rather than, a subconscious self-discovery. On top of that, Clara's skinny habits video was sponsored, meaning it wasn't just some random upload made in the heat of the moment. It was planned, structured, and monetized content. Now, that doesn't make it automatically malicious, of course, but it does make the later "I knew it was a bad upload, but my subconscious made me do it" explanation feel a little too convenient. It's also worth noting that the video is still up to this day. In my opinion, if Clara genuinely felt it didn't align with her values or truly cared about the harm it caused her audience, it probably wouldn't even be made, let alone still be sitting on her channel. But as we know, that's not the choice she made. So personally, I don't think it was a subconscious transformation like Clara says it was. Instead, I think it was simply a calculated content decision that received backlash and was later reframed as personal growth. But again, that's just my opinion. Clara frames her breast augmentation as liberation and fun, rather than insecurity. And with that, I respectfully say, cap. Clara, that's just cap. Because while any cosmetic surgery is ultimately a personal and deeply individual choice, I do find it difficult to fully accept the idea that insecurity played no role whatsoever, especially given Clara's history of seeking validation in different areas of her life, whether online or in relationships. Realistically, very few people, if any, undergo invasive cosmetic surgeries purely for fun. No matter how it's framed, it's still an expensive, invasive medical procedure that involves pain, recovery, risk, and, permanence. So for me, the idea that Clara's decision of getting a boob job was entirely detached from insecurity is a bit hard to believe. A more believable explanation is that Clara may have genuinely wanted change and had insecurities she didn't fully acknowledge, which is completely fine and very human. And to be clear, I'm not suggesting that Clara is a bad person. Like I said, I can't speak for her motives regarding her decision. It's just that presenting getting a boob job purely as fun or a change can feel a bit disconnected and shallow to an audience that supported her for representing confidence without needing to alter yourself. I honestly wonder if it would have been better for Clara not to say anything at all. Because from what I saw, many people from Clara's original audience were not really upset that Clara got the boob job. For many people, it was the lack of Clara's accountability. What seemed to upset people the most was the sense that something Clara once presented as deeply personal and meaningful meaningful had become pretty much disposable the moment it stopped serving her growth. As if the message of body positivity was sincere when it was profitable and brought validation, and then became more optional when it felt limiting to her. Essentially, the audience that felt like they helped build Clara's platform and got to where she was today felt pushed aside when she moved on. Almost like they were side characters to her main character story. And that leads us perfectly into Clara and her boyfriend's breakup.
Said that he felt like he was a side character in my story, and it made me really sad because I always thought of him as an equal.
A few months after the Cancelgate and Boob Job Gate controversies, Clara revealed that she and Javi had broken up. Now, as you can imagine, this came as a huge shock to everyone because, by all means, their relationship seemed perfect. Javi had supported Clara through Cancelgate and her surgery, and by that point, they had even moved from Canada to a beach house in Vietnam together. So from the outside, it looked like the relationship had just kind of ended out of nowhere. But I think if anyone seemed most shocked by it, it was Clara herself.
Honestly, I really thought that that would be the person that I end up with. I honestly thought that he was the one I wanted in a partner. And I thought that we would be happily forever after, you know. Everything was so good till, I guess, May of this year. Conflict started when we were in Vietnam and he was living with me here in Vietnam, and I really love it here. I really love the life here. We had the vision of living by the beach, doing our own thing, being independent, you know, just working on our own stuff, like the couples channel, his own stuff, my own stuff, you know, and some other joint stuff. We even tried to work on like a startup together. It was a really good time. The idea of moving to Vietnam was a joint idea. We both wanted to live in Asia by the beach, you know. He was staying with me mid-March to mid-May, and during those 2 months, I thought everything was good. From mid-March to mid-May, I think he visited the Philippines too. He had a festival that he was working on, and I thought that after, you know, finishing the festival, I would join him into the Philippines for the festival as well. And after finishing the festival, we would come back to Da Nang together. So that was our plan. He suddenly told me that he didn't want to live in Da Nang anymore. He wanted to stay in the Philippines forever. Of course, we have some back and forth, like we talked about it, and I was very open to the possibility of moving to the Philippines because I really love him and I want to make us work. And we had a lot of discussion about that. Then I got to Manila to attend his festival, and I think there were a lot of maybe miscommunication between us. Eventually, I just feel like we have grown apart in those 3 short weeks or that we were apart. I don't know. It's crazy to me that everything before that was pretty much like perfect, you know. I feel like during the time that I was in the Philippines, I got to see a version of him that I didn't know before, that I wasn't aware of before. Javi in the Philippines, like the version of Javi in the Philippines, and I never knew that part about him. I knew Javi in Toronto really well, and that's the version of him that I felt in love with. That's the version of him that, like, you know, we really vibe, we really connected, we really had such a great relationship. But Javi in the Philippines, I got to see a different side of him that I didn't know before. And so eventually we broke up. I wish him nothing but the best. To cheer myself up, I'm gonna go open Azar and chat with some people online. I think connection is very important. Okay, so I'm gonna go and chat with some people on Azar. Let's do it.
Hello, baby. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. Where are you from?
I'm from Vietnam.
Vietnam next to Chinese and like that.
Was that an ad in the middle of Clara's breakup video? Girl, we need to stop doing that.
I am so grateful for my ex. I'm so grateful for my relationship. Obviously, you know, being in a public relationship and breaking up, having a public breakup. This is my first public breakup, my first public relationship. So it is challenging in a different way, but I am doing okay.
Okay. So I have some thoughts on this. What stands out to me the most was how Clara described the relationship as being essentially great for nearly 2 years, only for it to basically fall apart in the span of 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know about you, but that kind of timeline is extremely sus. I mean, people don't usually plan an international future together, seriously consider marriage, build shared routines, and, you know, intertwine their lives and careers only to completely emotionally detach overnight. I'm sorry, but what even is that? When you're at the point where you're making plans to move countries with someone and imagining a long-term future together, the relationship shouldn't just disintegrate out of nowhere. From my own personal experience, when a relationship ends that suddenly, it usually means that there were underlying issues that had been building, ignored, or minimized long before the final split. And judging by Javi's breakup announcement video, you sort of get the sense that he may have been experiencing a very different relationship than the one Clara was describing.
Hey guys, so I just wanted to share that Clara and I have broken up. It was a decision that we made because we simply just wanted different things. You know, I moved back to the Philippines 2 months ago, and I just love the Philippines, man. And you know, she wanted to live in her beach house in Vietnam, which by all means is her dream life, and I'm super happy for her. But we just talked about it, and it seemed like the right time to just let each other be free and just work on things we're excited about again. You know, I think it was a dream starting YouTube and social media, you know, getting up to 2 million followers on that account. But I'm excited for what's gonna come. I'm back home, the place I grew up, and yeah, I'm excited for what's next. I don't know what to say.
Now, in no way am I trying to make light of the breakup. Breaking up is always a sad and difficult thing to go through, obviously, but I just want to say that the difference between Clara and Javi's response video is absolutely sending me. I mean, girl is out here crying on the beach alone, pouring her heart out and still wishing Javi well. And Javi is just shirtless and smiling? Bro looks way too happy about the breakup, period. I mean, what the hell, Javi? What's even more amusing is that Javi made a Single Again series, sort of reflecting back on his side of the relationship and how he wants to move forward.
It's been 2 weeks since my breakup, and as many of you could tell, I was happy. It was a perfect relationship. She understood me, she taught me how to be a better man, she taught me how to give, and together we achieved things I could have only dreamt of. And for a second, she really became my purpose. And so I think the hardest emotion I was avoiding was realizing that that was not the vision I had for my life. In the months leading up to the breakup, I started to feel really lonely because I didn't have any friends outside of the relationship. I felt homesick living in another country, but most importantly, I started to feel this lack of purpose. So I moved back home to the Philippines, literally hosted the biggest party of the summer, DJ'd at shows, got a car, but most importantly, I met my new friend group, reconnected with my parents, and started pouring into myself again. So yeah, I am making this video to process my breakup and even the sadness that I felt. But I realized that sadness isn't this negative emotion we should avoid. If anything, sadness is the skill that helps us let go and move on. And you can bet that I'll be documenting every part of that journey. Yesterday, I was talking with my mom about my breakup. And if you know anything about Asian parents, is that they don't just listen, they have opinions. See, my parents have 3 things on their checklist for my future wife. They have to live in the Philippines, come from a good family, and be traditionally feminine. But the thing is, I've spent 5 years living in Toronto, and so my perspective on dating is very Western. And the people I've dated in the past were always independent, career-driven, and they always wanted to split the bill. And because of that, I became really avoidant when talking about my dating life with my parents, because I knew their standards. And it felt like for the longest time, I've been running from the values I was raised with. So I guess now I'm just trying to strike that balance. So comment what you think, because I'm still trying to decide if this is toxic or traditional.
And yeah, that's it. That's Javi's Single Again series. It literally ended after 2 episodes because apparently by episode 2, he was already healed and got a new girlfriend. So yeah, I guess bro did look way too happy about the breakup. To say that there was a clear emotional imbalance in the relationship would be an understatement. From everything both of them shared publicly, it seemed like Clara was more emotionally invested in the long-term future relationship, while Javi seemed much more detached and quicker to move on once it ended. Now, the detail that really stands out to me the most was Javi saying he felt like a side character in Clara's story.
He said that he felt like he was a side character in my story.
Because in my opinion, it sort of echoes the same criticism viewers raised about Clara. In the same way audiences helped to build her platform, you know, investing time, attention, and loyalty, they were kind of just sidelined when she wanted to do something different. Javi probably at times felt more like a side character in her broader self-development story rather than an active participant in it. Now again, I'm not saying this is specifically how Javi felt or that it explains every relationship in our life, but his comment is still interesting because it might point to a broader pattern in how she seems to relate to people in general. One where she doesn't always fully consider how her actions could be perceived by others, and which could help explain why her response videos didn't land well. In any case, the breakup hit harder for Clara, and because of that, I think the breakup itself can be viewed in a different way. It might not have been solely about Javi as an individual, but about what he represented at that point of her life. Javi could have symbolized emotional security, being chosen by a conventionally attractive man, and proof that she was doing well personally and socially. The breakup might not just have been about losing a partner for Clara, but about losing the sense of identity that relationship helped validate. And when that kind of validation disappears, people tend to look for it elsewhere. Which brings us to Clara's infamous OnlyFans era.
My second most asked question is, will I open an OnlyFans? Do I have an OnlyFans? When will I open an OnlyFans? And the answer to all of them is never.
A few moments later.
After teasing for weeks that she was about to do something controversial enough to get cancelled again, Clara announced that she had launched an OnlyFans. And once again, people lost their fucking minds.
Bruh.
Clara was back in the drama channel rotation. People were talking about her latest career move, and not exactly in the most supportive way ever.
Clara Dao has officially lost the plot.
To most people, this move looked pretty obvious. Clara was farming attention once again. And at first, it did actually appear that way, because by this point, it had already been a little over a year since the original controversies and the breakup drama. The backlash against Clara had largely cooled off, and most people had moved on from Clara altogether. On the surface, Clara seemed fine. It looked like she had settled nicely into her dream beach house in Vietnam and posted a more luxurious lifestyle online. So when the OnlyFans announcement came, many people saw it as a play for relevance again, especially because of how she announced it. Preparing my apology video as we speak. Just kidding, or am I? And yeah, let's just say the people had thoughts. Many took this as Clara mocking her past controversies and proving she had learned one thing. Controversy gets clicks. Controversy means that people pay attention to you. And given Clara's well-known appetite for loving validation, I mean, it seemed pretty believable. The problem with that explanation, however, is that it only works if you ignore everything else happening in Clara's life at the time. During the year leading up to her OnlyFans announcement, not only did Clara get canceled twice and had a major breakup, she was also dealing with significant personal loss. Clara's grandfather became critically ill and was placed on life support due to cancer, and she had also lost a close friend to suicide. Now, these are obviously deeply painful events, and while I've had my critiques of some of her choices, I do want to acknowledge the gravity of what she was dealing with, and I genuinely offer my condolences. It's really hard to put into words how difficult something like this would be for anyone, especially all happening around the same time, so my heart really goes out to Clara. To be clear, I'm not trying to excuse or justify anything, nor my intention is to defend Clara and her choices, but I think we can all agree that when someone is going through public backlash, heartbreak, family crisis, and grief all at the same time, how they deal with all of that rarely looks like how they're saying they're dealing with it on the surface. Given what we know about Clara, with her being the type of person who struggled with deep insecurity and having also faced periods of extreme loneliness in her adult life, in my opinion, yes, Attention was probably part of why Clara started OnlyFans. But I also think coping played a major role too. Sometimes people chase validation not because they're thriving, but because something in them still feels unresolved. And as we've seen with Clara throughout her past, that need for external validation seems to become more important to her when her life feels unstable. And in my opinion, when someone already struggles heavily with insecurity and external validation, almost any form of attention starts to feel emotionally comforting, even if it's temporary, performative, or ultimately unhealthy. And this to me is very clear when you watch her explanation for why she started OnlyFans.
A lot of people ask me, Clara, why did you start an OF? I thought you're rich and you come from a rich family. You don't need the money. Yes, that's true. I come from a family that probably don't have to work and I'll be fine for the rest of my life. And I already made a name for myself doing social media for 7 years, live very comfortably, have a really good life. I am just rebellious. There's something inside of me, in my blood. I can't change it. Something inside me just wants to go against every social norm and what people expect of me, what I'm not supposed to do. I want to do that. In the beginning, when I first started out creating content, nobody was making flat-chested content, okay, on the internet. Nobody was making flat-chested content. Maybe some, but like not as many as I did. And I really made it my thing. I loved it. I loved making flat-chested video, helping people feel better about themselves. And after 6 years of doing that, 6 years, 900 videos, of course, you would get bored. Of course, right? So I got bored and I was thinking to myself with my rebellious brain, what would people not expect from me at all? And the answer is very obvious to me. A boob job. So that's exactly what I did. Even in the beginning, my family was so against me doing flat-chested content, showing my supposed flaw on the internet. They were so against that. But that kind of gave me the satisfaction of going against what people want for me. I don't know if you can relate to this, babe. Like the rebellious side of me it's just there. It's just there. And it's just who I am. So after having the boob job, I tried out a bunch of different types of content, just having fun, right? Like I did gym content, beauty content, lifestyle content, and I all had fun doing that. And then after 1 year, it occurred to me, my rebellious side comes out again. And it's like, what's next, Clara? What's the next thing that you can do to challenge the norm? Because that's what I love doing. And I realized that, you know what? I haven't tried being a boob. I haven't tried being an internet thought. And that is so looked down upon. That is so stigmatized. That's definitely a taboo. People don't like when girls do that. Sounds fun. And so that's why I did OF for fun. It's just who I am. This is who I am. Like I do things for fun. And I don't take life seriously. This is no way promoting OF or doing OF to any girls. In no way. This is my life. This is my life story and this is my personal decision. This is definitely not cut out for most people. Most people would not enjoy this job. But I enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I love it. I enjoyed it. It fits my personality. It suits me so much. In my head, I was like, damn, I wish I did this earlier. I enjoy it. But yeah, that's the reason. I'm not sure how long I will do it, to be honest. I guess I'll do it as long as it's still fun to me.
a girl just want to have fun.
On the surface, Clara's explanation comes across as a bit immature and, for a lot of people, very tone deaf. She repeatedly frames OnlyFans as something she's doing purely for fun because she's rebellious, despite openly stating that she comes from a wealthy background and doesn't necessarily need the money. Whether or not her financial situation is stable, for many people, OnlyFans isn't viewed as a casual or recreational choice. It's more commonly associated with financial necessity, limited alternatives, or at the very least, a decision made within very specific pressures and constraints, especially, given the level of stigma attached to it. It's certainly not something people do just to be quote-unquote rebellious. Instead, what I think we're seeing here is that Clara is using rebellion and change as a way to respond to pain. And this isn't new for Clara. We've actually seen her describe things in a very similar way before.
I've seen a lot of these comments recently that like, oh, I miss the old Clara. I missed your content before. Do you know that in my own personal life at the time, what I was going through? Like, you don't know, right? Because I could have this image of, love yourself, I love my flat chest. I could have this very innocent, pure image online. But in my personal life, people were mistreating me, people were abusing me, and I let it happen. My own personal life, I went through so much drama, so much hurt, so much trauma, and I came out of it. 2023, that I had like a rebirth, like an epiphany. Like, I know when you like went back and you would see me like suddenly changing my hair from black to red, and I was literally shedding the old version of myself because I went through a lot at the time. And the red hair was like a new beginning for me. And that's when, since I had the red hair, it's so crazy because like a new hair color can kind of change your identity so much, or it's just maybe the type of person I am. And I just started, loving myself more, like truly loving and respecting myself. Not just like saying online that like, oh, you should love yourself, like you should love yourself no matter what, but actually like living it, actually like, feel it in my bone and, face my demons and just really learn to like move on. Just really learn to become the version of me that I've always meant to become.
Now, I'm not saying that dyeing your hair a different color and starting an OnlyFans account are the same thing. They clearly aren't. But what is consistent is the way Clara describes these moments of change. In both cases, she frames them as a kind of reinvention, whether that's changing her hair to shed the old version of herself, or later entering OnlyFans as a way to have fun again after a period of stagnation and grief. What may have made OnlyFans specifically appealing to someone like Clara is that it combines several things she's always seemed drawn to: attention, control, reinvention, and most importantly, validation. Unlike everyday life where relationships and outcomes can be unpredictable, OnlyFans offers a space where she has far more control. More importantly, it also allows her to be desired for the version of Clara she is now. For someone who seems quite affected by rejection and deeply aware of how she's perceived, it's understandable how that kind of environment could feel, in Clara's own words, fun. However, whether male validation and constant reinvention translates into genuine healing is something that, for now, remains to be seen.
I never felt like I'm enough. I never felt like I had enough. I never felt like I was successful enough. Like I was loved enough.
Clara says that since starting OnlyFans, she's never felt so happy, and that she's never felt so free in her life. And honestly, even after all the controversy, I do wish her the best. Because if anything, I think Clara's story is a reminder that no one is fully confident all the time, and being seen doesn't always mean feeling secure. And that's what makes Clara's story strangely sad to me. When you really look at her adult life, it almost feels like Clara has spent it constantly reinventing herself in hopes that the next version would finally make her feel enough. First, it was becoming the confident, flat-chested girl. Then it was becoming the hotter girlfriend. Then it was becoming the girl who didn't care anymore. And now it's becoming the rebellious, hyper-confident OnlyFans version of herself. But underneath all those reinventions, the same question seems to keep following her. Am I finally enough now?
I'm preaching self-love and I'm preaching self-confidence to all my subscribers and followers. So how can I say that deep down, I didn't feel like I'm enough.
I think we can all agree that external validation feels amazing in the moment. Attention, compliments, success. But if your self-worth depends entirely on how other people see you, eventually you end up trapped constantly performing different versions of yourself just to keep feeling okay. And in my opinion, that's the real tragedy of Clara's story. Despite spending years being seen by millions of people online, Clara still never fully seemed convinced that she was enough without constantly becoming someone new. As I get older, I've come to realize that confidence is more like a muscle. It's something we flex differently depending on where we are in life, rather than something we permanently have or don't have. And God, girl, I do really wish I knew that sooner. So if you're ever feeling insecure, I think it's important to remember that confidence isn't about never ever doubting yourself. It's about not letting those doubts completely define who you are. Also, you're a hot bitch. Period. And with that, I will let you get on with whatever you need to do today. But before you go, I'm very curious what you think about Clara Dao. Girl, what do you think about her controversies, transformation, OnlyFans era, and whatever else we talked about today? Give me that tea in the comments because bitch, I am thirsty. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I will see you in the next video. Bye!